In 2010, a murder mystery game would come out that would completely shake the genre to its core. That game was titled Danganronpa. You don't even want to know how long it took me to make that. Okay? It was a while. But to really understand why this is such a magical game, you need to understand where it came from. Danganronpa, released by Spike, now Spike Chunsoft, formerly known as Mizuki Ltd. I did my homework. Before their flagship series, Spike was mostly known for a few mediocre wrestling games, some adventure titles, and a couple low-budget visual novels. Now, an interesting thing about them is they'd actually been around since the late 80s, slowly building a reputation for safer, middle-of-the-road projects. The kind of games that you might pick up on sale, but nobody ever really got hyped for. But by the late 2000s, all of that was about to change. While the company was decently sized for the time, it had nowhere near the influence that giants like Capcom or Square Enix did. And the Japanese market was also shifting hard from home consoles to handhelds. During this time, Spike was struggling to adapt. Their parent company, Dwango, was keeping them afloat, but just barely. And around this time, a young Kazutaka Kodaka, I have no clue if I said that right, and I'm assuming I didn't, but we're gonna move on. Kodaka pitched a concept that would become Spike's next big project. Now, this wasn't just another release. This was going to be a make or break gamble. If it failed, then there was a real chance the studio would have gone down with it. Which brings us up to speed. So now I can finally get into the game, right? Well, not really. Before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the initial beta concept, a game called Distrust. There's a cat outside. It's looking at me. It's freaking me out. I don't like it. Before Danganronpa's neon pink blood and extra cartoony atmosphere, it had a much grimier, realistic PlayStation Portable prototype with real blood, nastier executions, and a much more horrific tone. Looking at this concept art, it all looks really cool, but this idea wouldn't last long. In interviews, Kodaka himself said that going all in on cruelty just wasn't interesting enough to be a full game. So they took it back to the studio to workshop the idea. After a while, they came back with a new concept that pivoted two of the main aspects of the original idea. The team switched out the more gritty and horrific atmosphere for a pop art cartoony style. The most prevalent example of this was the blood getting changed to be neon pink in the final game. According to producer Yoshinori Terasawa, I think. I don't speak Japanese. It was part rating strategy and part stylistic choice. The pink blood was added just to keep a lower age rating and to soften the grotesque nature of the game. Which, that may be wrong because the game is still rated M for mature, so I don't know. I just remember hearing this from someone else and thought it was interesting, so I included it. But ironically, that pink blood would go on to become one of the most defining aspects of the entire series. The second thing that changed from the initial concept was the gameplay. Distrust had this experimental trust and distrust meter. From what I understand, the way it worked was the more trust you have with someone, the more they'll back you. If you alienate someone, then they would have suspected you. An interesting addition that came with this idea was many different scenarios that would actually play out, depending on who you worked well with and who you ignored. Now, none of this would make it into the final game, of course, which shipped with only one story and one ending. But when you really think about it, I think it makes a lot more sense. I mean, you'd rather tell one really good story than 16 lackluster ones. Now, most of this original concept wasn't released to the public, but from the few things we do have, we can see the game was originally supposed to take place in a warehouse designed to look like a school, instead of an actual school like in the final game. There were also talks about a 7-day time limit, and most of the cast looked very different, and also had completely different names too. The only two that kind of stayed the same were Leon and Sayaka, which funnily enough are the first two characters that are killed off in the final game. Apparently, the development staff had worked with these two for so long that they killed them off because they were just tired of having to use them. So distrust didn't really disappear. It just kind of evolved into something completely different. Something so stylish and surreal that I just had to talk about. Before any character even has a chance to say a word, Danganronpa already lets you know what it's all about. The official term that the team coined for it was psychopop. Gruesome ideas that are communicated with pop art flair. Case in point, the murders. Instead of making blood red, they made it hot pink. I mentioned earlier that the producers said they wanted to tone down the grotesque side of things and crank up the pop, which would later become a series staple. Now, if you know anything about how most games work, then you'll know Danganronpa is really weird for a visual novel. While most visual novels are comprised of pretty much only text and maybe a few moving images here and there, there's a lot more of an actual game to be seen here. And the only thing I can really think to compare it to is a stage play. Under the hood, this game is fully comprised of character cutouts and 2D props all arranged in 3D spaces. Spike called it 2.5D, but for the sake of the video, you can think of it like a pop-up book, except with a little bit more movement. Now, this might not sound very impressive, but you gotta understand, this was made for a handheld about this size. Their goal wasn't to make the most incredible visuals you've ever seen. What the team at Spike worked to do was to make good visuals with little details that were easy to distinguish even on this small screen. And the art direction is meant to slam you with high contrast silhouettes and expressions, which goes perfectly hand in hand with the music. Now, the music in this game is something that carries it way more than it needs to. The soundtrack is in this weird space where it's catchy enough for you to loop it for hours, but strange enough that it keeps you on your toes the whole time. I mean, even during your free time, the game plays these so-called chill tracks, but even they have this weird rubbery bass and little blips that just make you feel like somebody might be watching. But the free time tracks don't hold a candle to the trial music. The whole soundscape snaps from being a paranoia-filled dreamscape to so strangely intense. You hear 3 notes and suddenly you're reading twice as fast. It just pulls you in like that. All the music in this game is beautiful. It uses texture and memory. These themes aren't just hype, they're also mnemonic devices. You'll eventually start associating certain synth stabs and drum fills with specific kinds of panic. So the moment they hit you, you're already bracing for something to happen. The lighter cartoony cues also pull double duty. They sugarcoat the mood so the dark stuff can slide in without turning the whole game into a 2010s edge fest, but they also use it to make that psycho pop trick again. Bright on the surface and a dark, scary underbelly, which the OST sells perfectly. The little motif of recycling is pretty sneaky too. Tracks echo each other just enough that your brain keeps connecting scenes even when you're not consciously noticing it. It's like the soundtrack is stitching tones together while you just focus on the clues in front of you. I will say it's not flawless though, and I think that's worth mentioning right now. Some of the lower energy loops will absolutely wear on you during longer reading sessions, especially if you're the type to poke every dialogue before you move on. Visual novels live and die on repetition tolerance, and a couple of these songs can go from very good to please just end it now very quickly. It's not game breaking, it's just one spot where the style leans a little too hard on endurance. But while the art is beautiful and interesting, the story is what really got people behind it. And before I go on, I just want to give one final warning. If you haven't seen the game and want to play it at some point, stop watching, because I'm going to go spoil the last half of the game, which, believe it or not, is pretty important to the story. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going on. The way trials work is a lot of pretty simple tricks, all stitched together. Whenever a murder occurs, your character is tasked with looking around the crime scene, as well as the rest of the school. Danganronpa is a murder mystery where you and 16 other students are locked in a school. The catch is, all these students are ultimate students. Each one is absurdly good at one thing. On their first day at this new academy, this freaky looking bear guy named Monokuma traps them. He calls them all to the gym and lays out the rules. They're pretty simple. If a student kills someone and survives a class trial without being found out, then they get to graduate. If the group identifies the killer, which for some reason is called the Blackened, the killer gets executed. If the group accuses the wrong person, everyone else dies and the killer gets to run free. This entire event is being broadcasted worldwide, with the main idea being hope versus despair. The main gameplay of the game is separated into 3 sections. There's daily life, or free time, when you're allowed to do whatever you want and hang out with anyone that you want. There's deadly life, or investigation time. This is directly after a murder occurs, when you're meant to look around the scene and question potential suspects to try and piece together a case. Finally, we have trial time, which in my opinion is where the game really shines. However, there is a lot of stuff to know, and I'd rather go over it so you understand what I'm talking about. So, let's go to how to trial class. You like that? You like that chalkboard? That took me like an hour to make. Took a really long time. First thing I should mention is truth bullets. During investigation time, each piece of evidence you picked up is labeled as a truth bullet. Now that might sound a little weird, but it'll make sense in a second. Now the next most important thing I should mention is non-stop debates. This is what most of the trials are going to consist of. Characters will rapid fire their perspectives and arguments. Important phrases will appear as colored words, and you have to aim at them with this handy dandy little reticle and then shoot your proof bullets to disprove specific points. You can use your concentrate bar to slow down time, hit the right spot and you get to yell objection, but if you hit the wrong one, you get a light reprimanding and some of your influence gauge goes down. Now, if you understand how games work, I don't think I need to tell you what happens when this reaches 0. The next thing I should mention is the Hangman's Gambit. At a certain point in a case, you'll need to play a little game of hangman to figure out a detail. Shoot the right letters to spell out a word and you'll continue. Shoot a wrong letter and the influence gauge goes down. In later entries, this game gets a little bit more fleshed out, but I personally prefer the original Hangman's Gambit. Towards the end of the trial, before you come to a verdict, someone will try to argue that you're wrong and you'll enter a bullet time battle. The game basically turns into Guitar Hero and you need to press specific buttons to shoot down all their statements. Some of these are pretty funny, but most of the time, whoever you're arguing with just calls you an idiot. It's cool, I guess. Second to last, we have the closing argument. The game shows you a comic with all the missing panels and you need to decide what goes where to put together the case. And last but not least, you get the execution, which is by far one of the most interesting parts of the game. We've already kind of covered that stuff in the art style part of the video, so I won't rehash it, but other than that, that's everything you need to know about the trials. Now, of course, I don't have time to go through all the trials, so for right now, I just want to cover the last 3 in the game. Mostly just because to me personally, I see those as the most important and impactful. But before I can do that, we should probably get a quick rundown of the characters. This is Makoto Naegi. He's the guy that you play as, and his talent is literally being lucky. He doesn't have anything else going for him. The only reason he's even at this school is because he won a lottery where they drew a name from every high school student in Japan, and that's where he gets the luck from, I guess. I didn't make the game, man. Next is Kyoko Kirigiri. She is the ultimate detective, and she is meant to be a voice of reason throughout the game. Now we have Byakuya Togami. I can't say his name. I can't say it. I don't know. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Byakuya is known as the ultimate affluent prodigy, and if that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, it didn't for me either. It pretty much just means his family is rich and powerful, and his whole shtick is that he's just an uptight jerk the whole time. Next, we have Oi Asahina. I think I said that right. I don't know. I can't pronounce any of these names, man. She is the ultimate swimmer, and that's kind of the only thing she does. Next, we have Sakura Ogami, the ultimate martial artist. Her nickname in the series is Ogre, and for good reason. After that, we have Toko Fukawa. I can't pronounce these names, dog. Toko Fukawa, the ultimate writing prodigy. She writes romance novels and is extremely awkward. Also has a pretty cool alter ego when she sneezes. She turns into Genocide Jill, which is a serial killer known for stringing people up with scissors. The most interesting thing about that is that she actually never commits a single murder throughout the entire game. After that, we have Celestia Ludenberg, the ultimate gambler. She is the greatest character ever written in fiction, and I will not accept any slander. Next, we have Sayaka Mizuno, the ultimate pop sensation. She dies immediately, and I have nothing else to say about her. After that, we have Leon Kuwata, the ultimate baseball star who hates baseball. Instead, he wants to be a rock star. He also dies pretty much immediately, and I also have nothing to say about him. After that, it's Manda Uwata, the ultimate biker gang leader. He's got a cool pompadour and is very honor bound. I don't know. That's pretty much. I didn't really talk to this guy. I think that's his whole thing. I don't know. After that, we have Kiyotaka Taka Ishimaru, the ultimate moral compass. Lives, laughs, and loves the rules. He yells a lot. Like a lot. Like, that's his whole thing, is that he yells. It stops being funny after the second chapter. This is Chihiro Fujisaki, the ultimate programmer. Soft-spoken, brilliant, and carries a lot more emotional weight than you would expect. Next is Hifumi Yumada, the ultimate fanfic creator. He is a walking stereotype, but I like him anyway. And then there's Hippy Dippy guy. He's got a crystal ball or something. I don't know. I didn't like this guy. I'm gonna be honest. This guy. This is not my guy right here. This is L guy. It's probably going to be backwards in the camera. If not, I'm an idiot. Oh, that was my right hand. It's going to be straight, I guess. I don't like this guy, though. Finally, this is Junko Enoshima. Kind of. She's the ultimate fashionista, a trendsetter, a chaos magnet who changes moods like outfits. You should keep her in mind because she plays a much bigger role later on. But now that we know the characters, we can move on.